Hello, hello. Welcome to Fireside Chat with Kimberly. Thanks so much for being here with me tonight. Thank you to Bernie Wild's Adventure Sauce, the sponsor for this week's talks. Prize packs for this month's contest have been graciously donated by Hodo Foods, Follow Your Heart, Sinaholic, Revolution Gelato, Terraseed, Fabulous, Rebel Cheese, Veg Key, and Bernie Wild's Adventure Sauce. That's amazing. All of those prize packs are fantastic. How much do we love all of our sponsors? So, how can you get in on this? Well, you head over to virtualvegfest.com. Like I mentioned last week, we've changed the contest. So, you enter your email, you upload a photo of you interacting with one of the sponsored products. Get creative. The more creative you are, the more likely you are, the more you increase your chances to win. So, you don't have to have one of the products in your house, but if you do, definitely include that. But if you see one of the products out at the store and you want to post a photo with that, just get creative and have fun with it. We'd love to see all of the photos that you're sharing. So, welcome. Hey, Diane. Thanks for being here tonight. So, tonight I wanted to talk about kind of the disconnect that we see with people who still consume animals and the way they kind of don't get really what they're doing. And what prompted this is in a Facebook group that I am in that is not at all vegan focused. In fact, it's all about books. And we talk a lot about reading. And usually that's great. But someone took it upon themselves to post a photo and write a little short story that they thought was fun. And that's not really part of the group. You're only supposed to talk about books that you're reading. You're not supposed to write stories. Like, that's not what it's about. So it was already kind of in violation of the group's rules anyway. But this person posted a photo of a body of a chicken that had been cooked. She was making dinner, and it was on the cutting board on the counter in the kitchen. And above the counter were three small windows. So it looks like the kitchen is kind of underground and the windows are right at the level of sorry, allergies are right at the level of the ground. And when you looked in the window or through the window in the photo, there were three live chickens outside looking in. And the way the angle of the photo was taken, it did appear like those three chickens who were outside were, oh my goodness, that was weird. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know how to turn off getting phone calls through my computer. Anyway, um, it looked like in the photo that the chickens outside were looking down at the counter where the body of the chicken that she was going to have for dinner was sitting. And this little story that she wrote was offensive on many levels. She used a lot of language and hints at accents that do not represent, based on her profile, who she is and where she's from. And then it was all about those three chickens talking about how amazing the body of, and that's the word she used, the body of the chicken on the counter looked. One of the little comments was, do you know who did the body? I hope when it's my turn, they do my body. It looks amazing. And just all these comments as if these chickens were super excited to see that another chicken had been killed and cooked and was now essentially waiting to be eaten. And she thought this story was hilarious. She was so proud of herself for writing this story and posting this photo. And there were people who commented and they were right on board with her. And they thought it was hilarious and they added their own comments. And then there were some of us who were like, this is offensive. Not everyone in this group eats animals. This is horrific. We don't want to see this. Um, it's against the group rules. You're not supposed to write your own stories. This is about books that are published that we're reading. And the responses from the person who made the post and some of the others who had already interacted, the responses to those of us who said things like, "We don't want to see this. We don't all consume animals. This is horrific." We were told things like, "Get a life, uh, get over it." Uh, they called us crazy, emotional, and stupid. There was not a single person who had interacted with this post and thought it was funny, who came back and thought about, "Oh, I could see how this would be offensive." They didn't. There's this disconnect where even though this woman, obviously she has chickens, she lives surrounded by chickens. She interacts with them, she has to feed them, right? Clean out their coop at the very least. She sees them interacting with each other, interacting with her, and to still be able to formulate this story that not only are they pleased to see and not horrified by the body of the chicken on the counter, but that the chickens who are still alive would be dreaming of their chance to be the chicken that gets eaten next, cooked and eaten next. Wow, isn't that something? So I've sat with this for a little while. It happened like a week or so ago, and I've sat with how this feels, and of course I turned to Melanie Joy, and I listened to one of her talks, and this one of the things that she said, that Melanie Joy says in one of the talks, is that it's so easy to remain disconnected because we don't see the animals that are consumed for food. Isn't it, Lydia? I know. It broke my heart. The whole thing was just so awful. So Melanie says that because very often we are not seeing the animals that are being raised and slaughtered for food, that people don't make the connection. That even when they see a cow, a chicken, a pig in another context, they don't see how it relates to what's on their plate. And Melanie even gives an example of when she was younger and she could be petting her dog and eating a pork chop with the other, like petting her dog with one hand, eating a pork chop with the other hand. And she was like, now I know that the pig is just as sentient and as intelligent, maybe more so than my dog. But in that moment, my dog was my friend and the pork chop was dinner. So she calls this disconnect carnism. And it's an ideology and we're like born into it, right? So few of us are born and raised vegan. So we come into this world and we're taught right away that there are animals we eat and there are animals we don't eat. And we don't explore those animals that we eat. We don't explore why, and we don't explore how we've decided that they are different. Also in the talk, she flashes up a photo of like, it was even hard to tell. It looked almost like tacos stacked, just dripping with cheese. And she said, when you look at this, is it delicious or disgusting to you? And she talked about being at a party and someone, like a dinner party, and say someone presented this dish to you because you said that looks delicious to me. And so you eat at this party and you enjoyed the dish so much that you say to the host, I would love the recipe. Can you please give me the recipe for this dish? I can't wait to make it at home. It was so good. And the host gets the recipe. Yes, I'd love to send it to you. Wasn't it great? I love it so much. The key is the very perfectly seasoned golden retriever meat. She said how many people who thought that dish was delicious would now be horrified by it. But what's the difference? What's the difference between, the ground up body of a cow or the ground up body of a dog? The difference is that we have this belief system, this ideology that tells us dogs are not food, dogs are our friends. And that's not everywhere in the world, by the way. That's here. I'm in the US, so I'm kind of focused on kind of that kind of culture. People in other areas of the world do believe that dog meat is just as appropriate as anything that people in the US might eat. But the difference is, again, that we have been raised to believe that some animals get eaten and some animals don't, that it's natural and necessary that certain animals are eaten and other animals are not. She used this phrase, dampened empathy, and that happens when we're consuming animals because we're not connected to the world around us because we are consuming the bodies of animals that have been just their entire lives have been awful and they've been tortured and they've never felt cared for, and then they're violently slaughtered because you really don't need the word violent when you use the word slaughtered, because how can you kill anything that wants to live? um, Anyone who wants to live like humanely like that, in these lines so fast. It's all they're commodities. The people who work in these factory farms have to be fast. It's not about care, it's about money. And so there's adrenaline coursing through these animals' bodies, there's fear, there's pain, and then humans consume that. And so when you're taking in that kind of energy, it results in this dampened empathy. How can you feel for anyone or anything when that's what's fueling you? I think when we can get away from this need to dominate, we see it across so many cultures. Humans, it's a thing to be the best, to be number one. We have this need to dominate, to make a hierarchy of those who are good and deserve X, Y, and Z, and the rest who don't, those who are beneath. And they use words in order to diminish groups more and more. If we can move away from that and find a way to see all of this as one, all of us as connected. And let me tell you, when I think about humans, it is very hard for me to take all of these spiritual teachings that I've learned and listened to and studied and feel okay with being like I am one with all of these other humans. It is not easy. It is a lot easier to be one with the trees and the clouds and all the animals. But my husband JP, he was just reading a Thich Nhat Hanh book before, and he sent me this quote, and I think maybe I'd like to end it here with this so that we can walk away with maybe this thought and how we can start to look at the world differently and see that this idea of needing to consume animals is simply something that we've done, but we don't need to keep doing. The How many things in our history, just in this country alone, have we had in place, and we humans were doing whatever it was they were doing because, well, that's what we've always done, until finally enough people said, no, we can't do this anymore, it's wrong, we have to do something else. Only then did we change. But it takes so much when we have this view that some are here and others are here. So the quote from the book that JP had sent me, and it's a physical book, so just keep that in mind. This piece of paper I am holding in my hand is something that exists right now. Can we establish a time and place of birth for this paper? That is very difficult to establish, impossible, actually. Because before it manifested as a piece of paper, it was already here in the form of a tree, of the sun, of a cloud. Without the sun, without the rain, the tree would not have lived, and there would never have been this piece of paper. When I touch this piece of paper, I touch the sun. When I touch this piece of paper, I also touch the clouds. There is a cloud floating in this piece of paper. You do not have to be a poet to see it. If I were able to separate the cloud from this piece of paper, the paper wouldn't exist anymore. Later on, he talks about even if you burn the paper and it turns to ash and it gets, washed away by rain, but then evaporated up into the clouds, and then it rains down again. There's that ash of that paper in that rain. So when we think about the animals who exist and the way that how they've come to be is connected to the way we have come to be, and that all of our lives are intertwined and connected, it makes a lot more sense that we don't consume other sentient beings. I hope that makes sense. I hope that you can listen to that quote and take something from it that's meaningful to you. So if you are a viewer who isn't already vegan, I hope that maybe you take this quote and you use it to inspire a change. Whether you start off with one vegan meal a day or a vegan, like a meatless Monday type thing, or if you're ready to just jump right in, I encourage you to find that connection, to see that the cow, that the pig, that the chickens, that they have an interest in their own lives, and that they are as valuable to this earth as your dog and your cat, as your kids, as your spouse, as your parents. I hope that means something to you. And if you make these changes or if you need help, reach out to me. Let me know. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about it, help you get on your way so we can have more vegans in the world and the animals can live happy lives in their own nests, their own chicken nest, cow nest, pig nest. They get to be who they are, and we're not consuming that energy that comes from an animal that has been slaughtered. Okay, thank you for being here with me tonight. Thanks for listening to that. Um, as I always say, our time is precious, and you always have a choice, like the airlines say, right? We know you have a choice of who you choose to fly with. Well, I know that you have a choice of what to do with your Monday evenings, and I am so, so grateful that you chose to be here with me tonight. Oh, Lydia, that's wonderful. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much to all of you who have joined. I will be back here on Wednesday with the vegan stew, and then I'll be back doing fireside chat next Monday. I don't know what I'm talking about yet, but we'll figure it out. Have an amazing evening, an amazing week. Thank you, thank you, thank you.